Well, I mean, generational trauma is such a real thing that I don't think people touch on enough. What was childhood growing up for you? What was it like?
Childhood, man, it was all over the place really at first. So again, like I said, I started out New York, Brooklyn as a baby up until about I was like what 5 or 6 years old. You had moved out to Long Island. There's a little bit change of pace from the city life, and it's crazy. It's a long time ago, but I vividly remember. We moved to a house with a pool. Um, at first in Central Islip, we stayed there for like a good 2 to 3 years. And unfortunately, my parents at the time they got divorced.
Mhm.
So, single mother household for a little bit, moved around. Eventually, I had to move to Florida. We moved to Florida at it was back in 2004. My mom was working as a nurse at the time, working multiple jobs. At one point, we went through some tough times, a lot of
Yeah.
transitions. And luckily enough, my mother was able to create the opportunity for us to come down here to Florida while, she worked up north because the pay was a lot better. The cost of living in Florida was a little bit cheaper, so it was helped the money go a little bit longer. It's a funny story, the when we moved down here, the week after we moved down here, we got the first hurricane that my family's ever experienced, and then got hit with another two hurricanes back to back. We were out of power for about 2 months, 2 to 3 months, and we dealt with schools delays, etc., and dealing with no AC down south and being just new and just getting acclimated to the heat. It was miserable. I remember that's something that probably gives me PTSD to this day.
Oh,
But yeah, so grew up in a little suburb here in Deltona, Florida, and ever since then, been trying to pave my way. Eventually, graduated here from a local high school. Went off, joined the workforce. Went back to school, found my niche, and became a cybersecurity expert. And throughout the time, as since I was a kid, I've always been the one to compete in sports. So
sure.
I grew up wrestling. I boxed at a local gym. Taino's actually it's no longer here no more. It was like a nonprofit. City got rid of it. Really need to bring it back.
Mm.
Um, but yeah, so I just kept the itch going. My initial dream was to come out of school and transition into MMA full time, but life has its way of throwing curveballs at you, and you gotta adjust your plans. I became a teen father at a young age, and was forced to kind of pivot. And during that pivot time frame, I found my passion for cybersecurity, and I found my way into the field, and I've been chucking away ever since. Been about 8, 9 years now, and a couple years ago, after I kind of thought and sat back and was like, well, I kind of made up for my decisions at an earlier age, and I'm at the point where I can kind of circle back on my dream of being a fighter, and started competing again at a professional level, and now I'm doing both. I'm a cybersecurity expert and professional mixed martial arts fighter.
Let me jump back a little bit to the move to Florida, and that's tough, man. When parents go through divorce, my kids, I worry about that with them. That maybe there's things that they have yet to understand that they're angry about, or any of the angst that can come along with it. I mean, were you pretty good at staying out of trouble, being involved? Because you said you were really focused on sports, and was that a real good outlet, or did you kind of have some situations where it was the trouble
Yeah,
steered you the
yeah,
opposite
yeah.
way?
Well, it was kind of both. So like sports was an outlet. To say did it steer me out of trouble? I would say yes, it did steer me out of trouble. But did it steer me completely out of trouble? No, I've had my fair share of hiccups when I was a kid growing up, but grateful for each and every one of them because they made me who I am today.
Do you have a recollection of any one of them that really smartened you up?
I would say the best way I can put it is just be careful who you hang around. That's it.
Yeah.
Hang around the wrong person, you can ruin your entire life.
This is the Knocking Doors Down podcast, featuring celebrities, experts, and everyday people who have overcome adversities, including addiction, mental health, and trauma, to live purposeful lives. And that's what Knocking Doors Down is all about.